Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, we are talking about small space design, specifically focusing in on those living rooms. There's a lot we can talk about, and one of the first things I think you can do is work with built-in elements. And I always say this when it comes to small spaces. Built-ins are fantastic because they tick a lot of boxes. They fit a lot of the needs, and there's customization there, which is also great. Well, you could do built-in seating in a living room, sure. I mean, that's actually very popular with mid-century design. It's not what most people are going to do, however. So it's something to think about if that fits the needs of your space, but it's not for everyone. More so is about television consoles, those console units there, bookcases, potentially a fireplace, those sorts of things are built-in elements in a living room naturally. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is to, take things up higher or really build them edge to edge in so you get the fullest amount of space available. A console table, for example, only has a finite amount of space. It only reaches a certain level, and you can't squeeze it right between two walls or something like that. You're limited there. You have to have gaps of space, so you do lose storage that way. A built-in element doesn't have that because it completely covers the whole area. Let's take a media unit, for example. We can do a media unit, a modernized piece, mounted to the wall, okay? What that does for us, one, we have a little bit of customization with the length of it. We can put a very large television above that and have something that spans further underneath it so we get a good balance there. But also, if we wall mount something like that, all of the floor underneath it is completely open. And then, because we see more of the floor, the room immediately feels bigger. The walkways feel bigger. It just feels more open when you see that flooring there. There's a lot of things you could do and consider. I had a client who had a big column in the middle of her living room. And what we ended up doing was saying, add on to the column, make a pony wall, so behind that area is a hidden place. We could do a desk, we could do storage. There's something different in that area because basically it's completely unusable at this moment, and we see all of that in the space. Adding in a built-in element or feature to your living room is a great idea. I would look at storage pieces and potentially dividing walls even. Sometimes adding a dividing wall can make a small space not necessarily feel bigger because it wouldn't be, but it makes it more useful. I actually had other clients who we said, they had two doorways into their living room, but there was nowhere for the sofa. So I said, put a pony wall in this one. You can see the kids through it when you're in the kitchen, but then you can actually put your sofa there, and then, you don't have a sofa blocking off a doorway. Sometimes those sorts of things just make more sense in a space. So do not write off a built-in feature or an element in your small home, whether that's a banquette in the dining room, which is not a part of this living room video, and I know that, but it's an idea, or something like a built-in console unit or a television unit, bookcases, or something like that in your living room. Sometimes it takes a creative solution like that to really achieve great design and functionality in your space, and you may not be able to come to that conclusion on your own. If you are stuck, if you are struggling, you have a difficult layout, a floor plan, you just don't have the answers, or you can't pick a paint color or whatever, I am at your service. You can always book a one-on-one interior design consultation with me using the link in the description box down below, or going to intro.co/GarrettLeChic. Something else you can do at a small living room that I notice sometimes my clients don't do or they aren't thinking necessarily about is only having one walkway. Most people don't want to have a living room where somebody walks in front of the TV as they're sitting there watching it. It just is not naturally what we want. We want to be able to walk behind the sofa to get out of the space so we're not disturbing everybody, because I don't want to be on the sofa and have somebody disturbing me. So it's not always the natural thing to do to have a walkway in front of the sofa, between the sofa and the television. But in a small living room, you don't always have that choice. If you have two walkways that people are using, the living room is way smaller because a walkway is minimum 3 feet. You need 3 feet of space to get through somewhere naturally. And for it to feel fine, usually people like more, 48 inches feels more natural there, but 36 is the minimum. That's a lot of space. If you have two walkways, that's 6 feet of space we're losing in a room. 6 feet is a lot of space. And then, if you have a 12-foot living room, that's a substantial size living room for some people, okay? It's gonna be a big space. That's half of that. Half of that is completely gone. Put the furniture against a wall. put the sofa against a wall like I have here. The sofa is backed up to a wall. There's space here. I mean, I can fit my hand behind here, okay? It doesn't have to be pushed up completely against it, or maybe it can be, that's fine too. But put the sofa with its back to the wall, put the television on a wall, and then we float all of the other smaller things. The coffee table, the accent chair, maybe you have a bench or something like that, ottomans or something in the middle of the space. That way we can kind of move them around and place them in an area that feels natural to have a walkway through there, but it still feels like a proper living room. We don't feel like there's a big hallway cutting in front of us. Because if we have to shift the sofa forward, like if there was 3 feet behind the sofa, yeah, I mean, I could still have all of the same furniture here. I just wouldn't be able to get to the chairs on either side. I would not be able to get between the coffee table and the sofa. I wouldn't have that natural amount of space I need. So having one main walkway in a small living room will immediately make it feel bigger because we're centralizing, we're focusing in all of that empty space into one area. So it feels larger, it feels more spacious, a little more open, and you may find that you can actually fit bigger, larger, more oversized, more comfortable pieces of furniture, or even just additional pieces like an extra accent chair or something in that space that will get you more seating. Maybe instead of getting a sofa, you could then get a sectional and add a little bit of space there, some extra seating, a place to stretch out and lounge on. I love that for you. Only having one walkway in your living room though is the way to do it. Something I love in a small living room, I love all of the time everywhere, okay? And I actually talked about this in a how to modernize your home video, actually with a short, that oversized artwork is great in a small space. I love oversized artwork in a smaller space because we're playing with balance and scale now. What I mean by that is we have something that is really big that's drawing a lot of focus. This is the same reason we say to like, take your drapes up to the ceiling, because we want them to look and feel very tall and overwhelming because it brings your eye upward, it elongates the space. A large piece of artwork does something in a similar way. By elongating a space with drapes that go to the ceiling, we make the ceilings look taller, and that's wonderful. You can also stack them really nice and thick to make your windows look bigger and all sorts of things. Doing that with a large piece of artwork in a small living room makes all of the furniture feel smaller because we have one big overwhelming piece and everything else is lower down. That's higher up, this is lower down. So everything else feels smaller and it feels more open, it just feels easier to get around in, and that makes a small space look larger. Also, having an element that draws focus to it, like a colorful, a bold, a bright, a big piece of artwork. I love something with like a flashy gold frame on it. That's a great way just to draw focus to it. Even if it's a more subtle or refined piece of artwork, doing that really draws attention to it. It's not for everyone, okay, not for every home either, but a large piece of artwork will fill up a big empty wall, which you probably have behind that sofa. It's probably just big empty, you know, a lot of drywall happening there, and that's fine. But a big piece of artwork is a great way to fill it up and reduce the size of the furniture in the space. Even if it's like a big oversized poster, that's fine too. In a beautiful frame, that can feel very elevated. Even 2 posters next to each other, gorgeous. You could get an oriental folding screen. You can get a large mirror and do the same thing, the same effect to really enhance the feeling of the space. Mirrors are also a great trick to use in a small space or a darker space. They bounce around a lot of light and they create the illusion of more space. So that's something worth considering also. Tapestries are very in also. That's another great thing to think about. There's plenty of types of artwork you can get, plenty of places to find it. It's all about go big or go home. And when you think you have a big enough piece of artwork, think again, see if you can get it bigger. Because a large piece of artwork in a small space pulls a lot of focus, makes everything else feel smaller, and therefore makes that space feel larger. Now, a large piece of artwork can change your home and completely change your life. And something else that will change your home and change your life is clicking that subscribe button and joining us. Yes, shameless self-plug, and I love that for me. Become a part of our GarrettLeChic family by hitting that subscribe button. We post 2 videos every week alongside a lot of shorts content also, so be on the lookout for that as well. We talk about interior design, hardcore interior design, some fun videos too. Be sure you join us, become a part of our GarrettLeChic family. And if you made it this far in the video, don't pretend like you haven't seen the value. Hit that subscribe button, but also I would greatly appreciate it if everyone could give this video a like. Something I often tell my clients when it comes to decorating any small space, be it a living room or something else, is all about something feeling busy. Something feeling busy Adding more detail into a small space doesn't mean that it's a better design. It doesn't always mean it looks more expensive. Sometimes it just means it looks busy because we have so much to focus on. Your eye has to rest. It has to visually rest. And in a small space, there is a lot more movement because everything is closer together. So we need to focus in on refined details and less of them. We need to reduce the visual busyness of everything that's happening. And there's a lot of different things you could do or ways to do this. Number one is going to be through a really strong color scheme. Sometimes in a small space, you want something that's slightly more monochromatic, slightly more refined and less high contrast. And that could mean doing everything light or everything dark, everything a similar tone, or having a really strong foundation of things. You know, like for example, in this room, I have white walls, I have a white sofa. But if this sofa was like, you know, sapphire blue, you know, that would be like, whoa, we're looking straight at it. That would be the first thing we see. It would be really overwhelming to focus in on that. You wouldn't see the artwork. You wouldn't see everything else. You'd see the sofa, and on a darker sofa like that, you'd see all of the details. If there was tufting or something like that, you would see it. So sometimes having something that is a little bit less ornate, less busy, less detailed actually makes more sense because it allows you to pass over that, and it serves as a background detail that we can later focus in on. We want to have mains, and then we want to have like a background focus. And a background focus is going to be the majority of things in a smaller space. And it's all about being consistent in the materials you choose and the finishes you select and the details those have. So if I'm using wood tones in a smaller space, I'm not going to go with two really, really high contrast wood tones. I'll probably stick with one wood tone so we have a good foundation that we can build on top of. And I may focus more on texture than on pattern or color because that adds a lot of contrast and busyness to a space. And it's not just about, oh, everything has to be neutral and painted all white or beige or gray or whatever. You know I'm not that person. I love a good, colorful, bold, poppy moment, but let's make it count. Let's make it really matter. For me, I would do a big, fun piece of artwork like I have behind me, and then I might do a poppy floral arrangement, not a poppy as in the flower, but something that is bold and stands out and pops visually in the space that pulls from some of those tones. And then I might have an accent chair in that color or another detail over here. Maybe the rug has a little bit of that in it. That way there's good connection, cohesivity between the colors, but it's not super busy. It's all about refined details instead of just having a lot of them, because more does not always equal more. Sometimes in a smaller space, more has to equal less in order for it to actually feel natural and to focus in on any of the details whatsoever. One of the most important things you can do in a small space is get the scale correct and make the space feel comfortable. And there's a few ways we can do that, isn't there, Arden? Oh yes. You're so funny. Okay, so one of the ways we can do that is by focusing in on the heights of furniture and things like seat heighting. That makes a lot of sense. It just makes that space feel more comfortable and easier to be in and enjoy, but also it balances out the scale when the furniture is a similar size. So, you know, this sofa, for example, I can tell you right off the bat, it has a 17.5-inch seat height. The back of the sofa height is about 32 inches or so, but my desk over there is about 34. They're a very similar height. They're not fighting or contrasting with each other, and because they don't touch, they're not super close to each other, you don't notice. But the chair over there has very similar dimensions because I want it to feel natural as a part of this seating arrangement. The chairs over there are taller because they're not a part of this. They're completely different. They're not friends with the sofa over here. They're in the same room, but they're not a part of the same thing. So having the seat height and the back height of chairs across the space feels natural because they just feel like they're connected because they have the same scale and they're in the same furniture layout. And that makes it more comfortable for someone else to sit in that chair or that chair over here and me to be over here because we naturally are looking at each other. Our eyes are at the same place for the most part. As long as it's all consistent, it feels natural, it feels correct. Other things that you want to be the correct height is like where your television is hung. I actually recommend a lot of my clients get bigger TVs because where I want them hung, if the TV is smaller, it just has a lot of empty, gappy like space around it. It feels too insignificant for the space. So I wouldn't say like, go for a 65 inch. I might say go for like, you know, the 42 inch and then get a nice frame around it so it feels dressy. It feels a little bigger than it is, because that naturally aligns with it being hung in the correct place and with my eyes aligning with the center of the television. It feels very natural. And that's something you also have to focus on, is where is your eyesight aligned within the space? What are we looking at? Can everybody see what needs to be seen? Does it matter? Like when I'm sitting on the sofa here, I'm looking at you in the camera there. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see what's going on outside. But if there was a television across from me, which there isn't, there's a great piece of artwork here, and I was looking directly at that, right ahead of me, I can see outside, I can see what's happening here and there and everywhere. I don't have big blocky pieces of furniture covering up any of that, or my eyesight, my lines of vision into any areas. We don't want to have that happen, which is why I always say, like, don't put a big floral arrangement on a coffee table, because one, it looks stupid. Okay, I'll be honest with you. And two, if someone is sitting in the chair that's the same height as I am here, I'm looking at the floral arrangement, I'm looking through the flowers at them. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. I want things to be lower in the center of the room so that we actually can enjoy them. So I have those lines of sight to see everyone and everything that's going on. And this applies to every room in your home. Living rooms, however, are a little bit difficult because a dining room, those lines of sight are higher up. In a kitchen, for example, you're not sitting down. Those lines of sight are much higher up. But in a living room where you are sitting, things tend to be a lot lower. So how do we make that work with the other spaces in the room? And those lines of sight also play a large part into whether a space feels small or not. If we have really tall chairs and things happening over here, the room feels more condensed because I can't see past them into the open areas. That's a big takeaway I want you to consider and think about. What are you looking at when you're sitting down? What can you see, and does it make sense? Can you see whether you're sitting in that corner of the sofa or this one, or do you have to be sitting in this one spot to view anything? That's also a big conversation I have with my clients, is where are you gonna sit and watch TV? Where's everybody else gonna be and sit in there and watch TV? Can they even see it? Does it make sense for it to be there? That all comes into play when we talk about layouts in your living room and all of those spaces. So once again, if you need a second opinion, I am at your service. Well, there you have it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, you're definitely gonna wanna see this one here, all about those difficult living room layouts and hard to decorate spaces. So be sure you check it out, and I will see you over there. Oh, and by the way, thanks for watching.